everybody, this is Bryan Hogue. Welcome to Chiller Chat. Now tonight, we're going to be talking to guest Michael Smith. Now Michael is a writer and director of a film called Mr. Stitches. And it's a supernatural thriller. And he's going to tell us about what he did to how he made the film and kind of take us through his journey on what and tell us a little bit about Mr. Stitches. So I get Michael on the phone here, and as I'm doing that, let me tell you, feel free to interact. Now this is being streamed live right now, and so if you have any questions for Michael, if you have any comments, please leave them, and we'll make sure I ask them.
Hello.
Hey Michael, this is Bryan. You're on Chiller Chat.
Hello, everyone.
How's it going tonight?
Good. Very excited to be here.
Oh, excited to have you. And I think this is interesting. This is so cool. This is the first time I've seen an independent movie that has a different time error other than present time. You went through a lot of trouble. With all the details and props and so forth. We'll talk about that, but to make this appear as if it's in the 1930s.
Right.
I find that.
Yeah. And you couldn't do it just anywhere. I had to come all the way down to southeast Ohio and western West Virginia to shoot this film in the right locations. Fantastic, though.
Oh, wow. Well, I'll tell you what. What I'm going to do right now, Michael, is I'm going to play the Mr. Stitches trailer so that folks can watch that, and then we will discuss Mr. Stitches. So here we go.
What should we call him, Emma?
Mr. Stitches.
I said grab some sky!
Here you go, Mr. Stitches.
Smith ain't afraid of no man! The land takes care of its own, Emma.
Okay, and we are back. So that was a really well put together trailer.
Yeah, it was fun. When you see the guy getting machine gunned, we actually really did use real bullets and a real repeat machine gun to shoot that. So those weren't squibs. That was really bullet impacts on a dummy with blood bags behind it. So, yeah.
Oh, that's cool. What type of gun did you use? You remember?
I didn't do it. I was just there. I got a making of video of the guys that went out in the woods on some property, and they just blew this thing up with bullets. We shot it like 4 different times from different positions.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. And now this movie, I'm going to put the poster up. If I can find the poster here. Let me put this over where folks can see it. Well, here we go. So the poster there, of course, the skeletal scarecrow character is back behind the the gangster characters. What inspired you to use a scarecrow as the creature character in this film?
Well, I knew I didn't want to do a slasher. I didn't want to do a zombie thing, and I've always loved scary movies, supernatural movies, ghost stories. I love that genre. And I knew I wanted to set it in the 30s to make it more like folklore than just a modern day, 5 teenagers in the woods kind of thing.
Okay.
And living in
That's neat. Now you and going back to these props, okay, the cars, the you know, even down to the fan and the props and the typewriters and stuff like that. What how did you what'd you have to do to get all that?
I had to go to different towns. The bank robbery was shot in the little village of Cairo, West Virginia, about, I don't know, half an hour from Parkersburg. And that bank is a historic bank. It was actually robbed a couple of times in history for real. It's now a museum, so all those props were already in there, and they're authentic to the period. And the folks who owned it, the Rails to Trails group, an organization, historical organization, they were gracious enough to let us come and film there and use the street, shut the streets down, and do the whole thing right there in town. We shot it in one day.
You shot that part in one day with the bank robbery.
Yeah, the whole bank robbery was done in one day. And we just shot from the morning until we ran out of time. So like 9 hours, honestly. It's like guerrilla filmmaking. We didn't have a lot of time to do everything. We didn't use any external lights. We shot with ambient light.
Mm-hmm.
And my actors, they were so good at what they do. They just one after the other, bang, 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 or next scene.
What about the weather?
It rained every day.
And was it supposed to? I mean, did you?
No. It was supposed to be a hot July day in 1937.
Yeah.
And it was just humid. And as we were driving to Cairo, and I was thinking, my God, it's about to rain. It's going to blow continuity. But it didn't, because it rained every single day. And I've got, again, bloopers and outtakes of waiting in the rain for it to stop, just to film again.
Oh, wow. That's one thing that, I think a lot of people would be who don't work in that type of thing is, weather, lighting, what's it going to be like that day? Even the background. Now, you went to great lengths to, you were telling me about the props, getting the props and stuff. But even the background, everything in the background has to be age, era appropriate. Obviously you can't have a plane flying in the background. I mean, a jet that would be out of place, according to the 30s and stuff like that. So, was that a problem?
That was a big challenge, just getting the cars. I had a local car group, the TNA Model Ford Company, or Model Ford Group, all volunteered to be traffic in that robbery scene and extras on the street. They all just came in their own clothes, and he said, who wants to be in a movie, wear something like from the 30s if you can find something. We had to stop a few times because traffic had to move through. We had to have people come through. I think police car races at one point. And there's a scene on the porch where the guy and the girl are talking on the porch, actually in the rain. And you could see the reflection of the road in the window behind it. So every time a car passed by, we had to stop filming.
Oh, geez.
Pick it up. So that was the biggest problem with keeping the modern stuff out in the shot.
Now, what about the vehicles? And then there's one of our viewers has a question, and I'll ask that as soon as I ask this about the vehicles. How did you get era, like 30s era vehicles for your film?
I was working at a company in Marietta, Ohio, and we had a guy there who was involved in this Model T Ford Club, and that's all they do is they own and restore classic cars for fundraisers or parades or wherever you want to meet vintage cars. And he said, oh, we'd love to be a part of it. How many cars do you need and where and when, and we'll just make a day of it. We'll have a picnic, whatever. So they actually helped make it.
Wow. That's a good person to know for what you were trying to do.
Yeah, they're all very patient. We had to cancel a couple times, or they had to cancel once or twice. Just that's the largest problem I've found in making a movie is everyone has to be at the same place at the same time. It doesn't always work out. So what took us 5 days to shoot, it took us forever to get to that 5-day period.
Wow. Well, we have one of our viewers on YouTube, Glamfangs, is asking, or she states, the trailer is attention grabbing. It makes me want to know who the characters are, how they are involved, and how the story ends. Well, we probably can't tell you how. Well, I mean, she's she's saying that I see what she's saying. It's drawing her in. She's curious. She wants to see the movie and how it does end. So that's a that's a good compliment to your trailer.
Oh, good. I appreciate that. Yeah, the trailer. That's the second trailer. I did one years ago with another. We tried to film this back in 2012 in Central Ohio. It just didn't work out with schedules. But yeah, the trailer is supposed to what sells you the product. This makes you want to see it. You know, it doesn't give away everything, but it shows you the action, the drama,
Yeah.
the emotion, whatever, inside of 2 minutes.
Right. Corpus Christine on Facebook says, "Wow, I'd never considered reflection messing with your shots." So that's it's kind of an eye opener, yeah, for someone who wouldn't think that. There's a lot of things that you think of on the, even as you're doing it. There's a lot of problem solving skills I would imagine that you have to overcome as you're there on scene.
Yeah, you say, how can we make this work, with no money and little time, and, how can we budget this so we have to park this car in front of this modern day, tractor or something, in the background or something.
Right.
I didn't have to do really any matting out of anything, digitally to get rid of anything. Well, there was one I did have to mat out, a gas drill. Yeah, with gas well. That I'm not going to tell you where, so there you go.
Yeah. Well, I've got some pictures here. I could put these pictures up on screen as we're talking. Now there's a delay, so I'll start describing them to you. You'll probably it'll be a few seconds before you see them. Oops. Let me take your picture off here. Okay, one is there's of course the head bad guy. Hank Smith, played by Ralph Scott, and he's got a blade up to one of his buddies' throat. Nice guy.
Yeah, I call that scene the power struggle. That's where the robbers are lost and they're desperate and they're angry at each other for blowing the whole caper. And Ostrich, he's just a dimwit. Played wonderfully by Scott Willis.
Yeah.
He's a fantastic theater actor. And I said, Scott, just be a half-wit, honestly, a dope. You kind of like this guy, but he's also a killer. So that's all I told him to do, and he became Oscar. Yeah, he was a laugh riot.
Oh, by the way, and now I got a picture of a gentleman in a barn holding a shotgun. Before I get to that, though, I gotta say your outlaws were really, the gangsters were really well played. I know Ralph Scott played Hank Smith, and of course you mentioned the other the dimwit gangster there, and then of course you got the handsome Jack, they called him, Todd Covert.
Yeah, Todd, he's fantastic. Good friend of Ralph's. He said, you need to give my friend Todd a part in your film. He looks like Warren Beatty back in the day. Looks like he just stepped out of the 40s. I said, oh, yeah, fantastic.
Those guys did an excellent job.
Well, Todd's got 20 years, experience working in California before he came back to Ohio. He does stuff in Columbus. All of my actors are stage actors and they're film actors. They're professional, SAG-AFTRA talent. So I didn't have to direct much. I just said, here's what we're going to do. Just make me believe this. And they did it.
Right now I've got the dad back up here with the shotgun in the barn.
Yeah, if anybody has any questions, go ahead and ask. I'd rather answer their questions if they have anything they want to know, and we'll just fill in time.
Sure. And then of course we go back to the gangsters. There's a picture of them at night, and as I'm looking at this, Corpus Christine writes, so curious, who worked on wardrobe and how hard was it to achieve that look?
My costumer was G&G, Google and Goodwill.
I see.
That's the God's truth. I did all the costuming myself and my friend Lisa Hachevsky, who was my right hand during production. We just shopped. We went to resale shops and church resale shops and just found old stuff that people don't have anymore. They wanted to unload, so we bought wide ties and suits. Actually, Ralph Scott bought his own suit. For the other guys, we just pieced them together from pictures from Google of 1930s gangsters, the best we could. I mean, we couldn't find the wide lapels. I really
let's see. Glamfangs wrote it right. Exactly. The trailer gives enough to get my interest because it says something without revealing too much. Was casting easy, or did it take a while to find actors who fit the characters you envisioned?
I first met Ralph Scott when I was working as a makeup artist on a film he was doing in Columbus about a dozen years ago. And he just looked like somebody I wanted to have as Hank Smith.
Yeah.
And I pitched it to him, and he said, oh, that sounds like fun. And he hooked me up with his two friends who had the looks I wanted for these characters, Handsome Jack and the dim-witted Oscar Johnson. The lady who plays the mom in there, she's a fantastic actress and director herself up in Columbus. And I wanted her specifically because she had the look, plus she could pull off this scream in her audition. And it said, that's the person, that's Clara. That's played by Beth Josephson up in Columbus.
Okay. And then we have a picture here of the officer and the detective, and the officer he looks awful familiar.
I'm feeling Hitchcock or Peter Jackson or something. I want to appear in my own movie as uncredited, basically just so I can be a part of it, not just behind the camera.
Yeah.
And my bit was shot the last day, the only sunny day that we had during the whole production.
Oh, is that right?
The only day it was sunny, and that was like a month later. And the corn had turned brown. So we had to make it.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Killed the corn. I don't know.
I recall that being mentioned. That's funny. That's funny that there's a story behind it like that.
It's more of a blooper that we had to use. I kind of made it a half joke, I suppose. But, yeah, the corn's suddenly dead. I don't know.
That's funny. That's funny.
Yeah. That's my dad, by the way, who's playing the detective.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah. He helped me out so much with the production. He and my mom and Lisa were my really my only crew. And we all sort of pitched in to do stuff for it, hold the mic or whatever.
Yeah.
And I said, man, why don't you, be in this thing? You've got the look, you could be the detective. So he said, yeah, we'll just do it. And, he showed up and did the lines, and it was a lot of fun.
Well, let's see here. I have a picture of you. Let's see. Let me get rid of. Here we go. There's a picture of you with the crew there. You're standing with the gangsters and, of course, their getaway driver.
Oh yeah, that was. Let me see if I can. I'm not seeing the same picture. Is that the one where everybody's in there?
Yeah, you have of course you're dressed with the purple shirt on, and we've got the gangsters with the full crew standing beside and behind you in front of the brick building. And as that, you might have to catch up to that because there's a delay. But Corpus writes, "Nice. I went to school for costume design, so I always love to hear people's experiences with that." She's the one who asked about the costume. And then Doc Dredd writes, "Good evening. Oh, I'm late to the party again. All right. Well, thanks for joining us, Doc." And then
Angela Tunstall played the getaway driver. That's Hank's girlfriend in the movie.
right. Okay. Now, who played the dad and the mom, and then of course the little girl? She did a fantastic job.
Yeah, I had the whole family. I had a farm family and the gangsters. Roy, who played the dad, his name was Roy, was played by Nathan Austin. He's an actor and model. He drove all the way up from Kentucky, about 6 hours one way to be in this for one day's work.
Is that right? Wow.
Yeah, and of course, young Emma was played by Cosette Payne. She's a young actress up in Columbus.
Okay.
She's been doing some stuff even since then. But yeah, the farm family was put together. Like I said, Beth Josephson played Clara, the mom, because she had that look, and she was just so able to be terrified on screen because she's a stage actress and director. So,
Okay.
well, actually, I made up pretty good with my talent.
Yeah, I'd say. Now here's another picture here. What seems to be perhaps the result of maybe you getting a little out of hand because you're down on the ground Being restrained by a deputy sheriff, it looks.
Yeah, yeah. I asked for the sheriff's deputies to kind of hang out to direct traffic while we filmed the bank robbery. And this guy was so nice. He stood in one spot for like 10 hours, you know, in the rain and in the heat. And we broke for lunch, and I walked over and I said, I was going to see if you wanted something to eat. And I said, we're trying to get you a donut. You know, you're supposed to like those.
Yeah, it's cop
He kind
food.
of laughed. I said, let's do something with the police. I said, you know, show me how you would, you know, how you would actually tackle a bank robber or something, or a bad guy.
Yeah.
He was demonstrating a little bit forcefully on the ground, you know, what you do with a non-compliant person.
Did that convince you he knew what he was doing?
Yeah, he seemed to enjoy it. Definitely on the ground, my shoulder around the back of my head.
Yeah. Yeah, it looks very effective. Glamfangs writes, "Is it hard to get an area blocked off in town when filming outdoor scenes? How were the reactions of the residents to it all?" That's a good question.
The village of Cairo, West Virginia, was very receptive to this. They loved the idea. A lot of people showed up who lived in town to be extras. And Cairo being so tiny, and it literally is just one block, there wasn't a lot of hoops I had to jump through. I just had to get permission and have the police there to make sure nobody got hurt. And that was really it. I mean, it wasn't like going to a metropolitan city with, you know, a lot of red tape.
Where you have to get a permit or something to film out in a public location, probably.
Yeah, that, you know, $200 million insurance, you know, it would be just too much for my little production. These people were just really nice and gracious. And, you know, we all ate at the local diner, and it was just a lot of fun. Very easy going.
What was the, now you say it took, how long did it take you to film the entire movie?
It was, I think, 5 non-consecutive days.
Okay.
I only had my principals for about 2 days each. They all had regular acting jobs they had to do back in Columbus. So they gave me, you know, a couple of days each to do their stuff, and that's all I could get from them. So I had to work quickly, and they drove almost 100 miles one way, you know, from Columbus down here to do the scene. So I couldn't keep them coming back, and I couldn't afford to keep them coming back, and they had other stuff to do.
Right, right.
Yeah, we just, like I said, my scene was done the last day, like a month later. The farm scenes were all done in a couple of days, but the gangsters were all done in 2 days.
Wow, it's a lot of work, that went into all that, because you didn't just have the outside, you know, scene. Of course, you had the interior shot with them, you know, robbing the bank, and I would imagine that would take a lot of time to set everything up.
Yeah, we had one light in the bank. It was a very narrow space. I mean, there was no real room to move at all. So I had to keep the camera kind of stationary over above the teller. Not a lot of room to move and not a lot of scenes to do. It was just a quick robbery. I almost wanted to film it cinema verite style, just get in there and shoot it as it happened, and you know, like one continuous shot.
Oh, that would have been cool too. Yeah.
Yeah, and I couldn't get the camera around behind everybody because there was literally, you know, one person with space, you know, from the wall to the bank teller, you know.
Oh yeah.
So.
Well,
yeah, we just had to work with it.
what was the most difficult thing about making Mr. Stitches?
I don't know how to answer that. I think just the scheduling problems, just getting everybody to, yeah, I'm free on that date at the same time. I think that was mostly it. The weather, you know, you shoot indoors when it's raining and, you know, whatever, it's fine. But mostly it's just everyone's schedules have to mesh. It's volunteers, the car people, you know, the principals, the people who own the farm was very, very gracious. Let's film, you know, in his house on his property, you know, up until late at night. We had to use some of his farm equipment to do the rappelling out the window. The girl comes out the upstairs window. So we had to bring this like man lift out. It's like 11 o'clock at night, and it was so humid you could see the air. Terrible.
Well, Corpus writes, what type of camera did you use to shoot with, and how much editing time was involved?
I shot that on SLR camera. Editing, I spent weeks editing it. From color grading it to dropping in the effects and the music. A friend of mine, Todd Kirby, my oldest friend in Nashville, Tennessee, he wrote some of the original music for the film. The most thing was just editing. That was what took the longest. And it's the most satisfying part of it is piecing those scenes together and clipping out the bad stuff and the puzzle piece that I like to work with.
Do you have how about for any up and coming filmmakers who wanna try their hand at the independent movie making? Do you have any advice for them?
Yeah, do it. Grab the camera and do it. That's how I did it. And, years ago when I was a boy, and we didn't, in the early '80s when I was young, we didn't have, cell phones that shot HD.
Right.
And non-linear editing systems on our PC. We didn't have all that stuff. It was a lot more difficult then. But you just go do it. Make short films. Write a little steam and get some friends together and make some action. And that's about it. Just go and do. And then learn it and perfect it and maybe get some money and make a feature. I shot Stitchy for like $3,200. That's how much it cost me to make it.
Wow.
I think it's pretty good. It's like 55 minute long. It's not even a full feature, but it's about an hour.
And if people want to see Mr. Stitches or get in touch with you, how can they do that?
Stitchy is now on Trauma Now. The address would be like watch.trauma.now. And just do a search for Mr. Stitches. You have to sign up to be on that site, but the first month it's free. After that, it's like $4.99 a month. You can watch all the horror movies you can stand, for $5 a month.
Oh.
And that's where it is now. And you can always follow the Facebook page, facebook.com/Mr. Stitches Film. And there's all kinds of pictures there and trailers on there.
And they can contact you directly on that page, correct?
Yeah, they can message me on Stitchy's Facebook page if they have any questions or just want to like it or follow it. There's talk of a sequel. We're talking about a sequel to Mr. Stitches right now, so that's just talking. But we're not done with it yet. Even though it's done a year ago and it's been done for a year. I've been wanting to revisit Stitchyland for a while.
Well, that was going to be we only have about another minute left, but I was going to ask you about future plans. Now, you mentioned a possible sequel to Mr. Stitches. Is there anything else that you're contemplating?
No, it's mostly that. I just did a short film a month ago called Sitting Up with the Dead. It's a 15-minute short in the style of Tales from the Dark Side.
Okay.
We shot the same farm with some of the same actors from Stitchy, but there's a link to it off the Stitchy's Facebook page, too. So I like to do little shorts like that for cheap, just for kicks, to stay in practice, little creepy pasta things.
Well, Corpus writes, so you have a cool network of friends that bring talent to the table. Cost was my next question, but you just answered that. So I think we have everybody's questions covered so far, Michael. I'm going to put your poster back up here real quick so everybody can see that for Mr. Stitches. And of course, you can get in touch with Michael and see a little bit more information about Mr. Stitches at facebook.com/Mr. Stitches Film. And you can check out the information there. Michael, is there anything else before we conclude tonight's episode?
No, I think I covered most everything. I thought I got the questions answered and talked about the movie a little bit. It's been a passion of mine for literally a decade. I conceptualized this like in 2008 when I first moved down here.
Oh, wow. So all you...
All this time. Failed fundraisers, and just you have to be in the right place at the right time to meet the right people who have the right connections. That all comes together, and it's just beautiful when it's done.
Well, you stuck with it. And you made it happen. So.
Yeah, it's a passion project. I like it.
Well, Michael, thank you very much for being on the show tonight. I really, really appreciate it.
I appreciate the time, and great show, and good talking to you.
All right. You too, Michael. You take care.
All right, Dwight.
All right. All right. Well, that was really interesting hearing about Michael's developing the movie and actually filming it. So I want to thank Michael again. I'll leave that up here for another minute or so with Mr. Stitch's film on Facebook. But I want to thank all of you too who joined us tonight and asked your questions and left your comments on Facebook and on YouTube. So I appreciate that. And have a good evening, folks. Have a good night. Have a good chiller night. We'll see you next week.
How many times do I have to tell you, just because something isn't good doesn't mean it's bad?
Oh, jeez.